Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today we're going to be looking at Preservation Evoker Guide for raid situations. We're going to be looking at my favorite talents, my stat priority, my gameplay, how do I set up Stasis, how do I set up Emerald Communion Ramps, the tips and tricks and anything to get you started as Preservation Evoker for raids. Let's go and begin with the talents. Now you see right now is my Preservation Evoker and this is my raiding build. We'll talk about the gear, we'll talk about the stat priority. And now let's look at the raiding talent build that I used for my Preservation Evoker. Keep in mind I reshot some parts of the video because I did fall into a trap of picking Exhilarating Burst, and honestly the way that interacts with your class, you can check out the performance of talents using things like WoW Analyzer. This is not really good. I definitely don't advise people to pick it. There's so many people out there running this talent. Honestly, it can be somewhat of a bait. I hope that this talent is going to be buffed in the future by Blizzard, because in its current state it's very weak. So in terms of the class tree, you can see here that I'm running Leaping Flames. Now historically Leaping Flames used to be quite a nuisance because it might destroy your ramps, it might go into stasis, but recently Blizzard has added a pretty significant, how do you say, hotfix to Leaping Flames, making it a lot more viable and easier to play around. So I like Leaping Flames because you can cast max rank Firebreath, and then you're going to have again Leaping Flames, which you can use your Living Flame, and the more Living Flames you use, you can proc Essence Burst. So it kind of works together, and you can use Fire Breath not only for DPS but also to increase your healing. And again, there's also force set interaction. So I do enjoy Leaping Flames, but if you don't want Leaping Flames in this case, you can't take it away. You can't take away Oppressive Roar. You can go into something like Rescue, you can go into something like Aerial Mastery, and you can go into something like Tailwinds. This is a pretty popular build as well. If you don't want Blast Furnace, you can also take that away if you don't need additional damage from Fire Breath. Now, you might be running a completely different class build because you're trying to pick up Time Spiral, because Time Spiral is insanely powerful on fights like Mythic Razaget. So there's a lot of leeway here in terms of what talents you want to pick. I enjoy this build. I enjoy Leaping Flames because of the latest hotfix. In terms of the spec, there is again quite a few things you can change. I do believe that this talent tree is pretty popular right now. You are running Temporal Anomaly, you are running Resonating Sphere. You can take away 1 point from Essence Attunement. You can. A lot of people might stay away from this. Essence Burst stacks 2 times. You might not want this. You might take this away and put it in something like Flow State, which again is a decent talent. I think this build is probably going to be relatively popular. Again, you do have Spiritual Clarity, which reduces the cooldown of Spirit Bloom, which can be pretty important depending on the damage pattern of fights. Again, there's quite a few bosses where Spirit Bloom burst healing is pretty nice. Now, I enjoy this talent tree, and you can change a couple of alterations. Again, I talked about Essence Attunement. You can probably swap around Spiritual Clarity depending on which boss you're doing, and you probably can swap around your Time Spiral depending if you need that. Again, you will need that for Mythic Razaget, so there is quite a few things you can change and move around, but I enjoy what I have here. I will talk about Spark of Insight and I'll talk about Temporal Compression later down the video. Let's move on to the next section. So let's go and have a look at the gear for Preservation Evoker in raid situations. This is my Evoker right now, and I do prefer Crit Mastery. We'll talk about stat priority a lot of the times, but Crit Mastery, you'll be looking for gear with Crit Mastery when possible, and that'll be regarded as your biz stats. So a lot of the times, in terms of embellishments, I am running Lariats. I think this is pretty much run by most people out there. I do have Mastery and Crit Gems. Make sure you have that 1 gem that's going to give you primary stat. You have to get it crafted. Outside of Lariats, I'm running, and you can see here, this is a ring that I have Mastery and Crit Gems. I have Mastery Enchants. On some of the gear, I also have Crit Enchants, because if I'm using a piece of gear that I'll be using in Mythic Plus and Raids, I'll be applying Crit to it because it gives me damage and healing, while Mastery only gives me healing. But in this case, I'm running increases the duration of Dragonflight potions by 50%. This is your potion inhibitor embellishment. Pretty much, I don't want to say mandatory, but very important aspect of your gearing in raid situations as Preservation Evoker, because you will be running or using Potion of Chill Clarity. Now, Potion of Chill Clarity reduces the mana cost of all spells by 100%. That sounds amazing. It's basically like an innervate, but also increases the cast time by 40% for 15 seconds. This does not apply to GCDs, so your instant cast abilities like Reversion, the GCDs, they're not longer. This does not apply to your empowered abilities, which is basically the bulk of your healing. So this potion is really strong for Preservation Evoker. It's also really strong for Rest of Druids. So if you can get rank 3 of this, it's quite expensive, but you can get rank 3 of this. Rank 2 is very cheap. You can do something like this. You can pop the potion, you can use your Temporal Anomaly, and then you can, again, Temporal Anomaly cast time is going to be increased, but that's fine. Temporal Anomaly costs like 19,000 mana. You're going to be using a bunch of your healing abilities, your empowered abilities, your reversions. You're waiting for your Temporal Anomaly to come back cooldown. You can see here, I can use a second Temporal Anomaly. This is the duration of my Potion of Chill Clarity. I have a weak order that I made specifically for this. So with this, you can at least cast 2 Temporal Anomalies during Potion of Chill Clarity, which again, if you look at the cost of Temporal Anomaly right now, it's 18,750 mana. And if you're thinking about, hey, maybe this potion is not that great, maybe I'm going to use something like a rated mana potion, this gives you 27,000 mana instantly. 27,000 mana versus Potion of Chill Clarity, rank 3, which gives you at least 2 Temporal Anomalies and then a bunch of other abilities. You're saving insane amount of mana. You have to use this combo, especially if you're running out of mana and you try to squeeze in as many Temporal Anomalies as possible during that window. Outside of that, in terms of trinkets and things like that, again, I do consider Conjure Chill Glow to be pretty much mandatory for Preservation Evokers because it does give you a decent amount of mana back. I do think that Brood Keepers is really good. If you can get the heroic or mythic version, even better. Icon is also a pretty decent option. I think those trinkets, I think majority of people will have Chill Globe and they'll have something like Brood Keepers or Icon will use it in raid situations. And again, this is my gear for Evoker. Let's go and look at stat priority that I use in raid situations. Now, when it comes to stat priority for Evoker, there's no big surprise here. Mastery and Crit has been the preferred stats for Evokers since Dragonflight launch. Mastery being a very strong, pure healing throughput stat because it provides 0 damage, and Crit being a stat that can climb in value, especially if you do focus on reversion build, especially if you want to focus more on damage and things like that. But generally speaking, Mastery and Crit are something that you want to get. And in terms of other stats, haste can be pretty decent and versatility is a little bit lower just because of how versatility works. And if you don't consider damage reduction that versatility provides to be an important part for you, versatility is not going to be that amazing. I'm sure there might be a couple of people who find different stat priority that works for them, but honestly, for majority of people out there, Crit Mastery is the only and the best way to go. But again, a big disclaimer to all of this: if you don't have good gear, if you're just gearing your character and you want to enter raiding situations, just picking highest item level. Intellect at the end of the day is the king. Item level is the king for majority of items, with the exceptions of something like necks and rings because they don't provide intellect. You can actually drop a couple of item levels, but if you pick up pieces with like Leech is insanely strong. You might actually be dropping item levels for Leech, but again, using things like Questionably Epic Life can provide you with even better answers because it'll sim your gear based on what you have in your bags, which provides you with, again, probably the best way to gear or optimize your character. Now let's talk about some tips and tricks. And again, I did talk about this in my previous video on Mythic Plus, but I'm going to cover this in case you haven't seen this. I'm going to cover this in the raid situations. You can run Rush of Vitality, which Emerald Communion increases your maximum health by 20%, and Emerald Communion heals based on your percentage of HP. So it makes it really worth running this, but you are kind of stuck in one place. Now, if you do press hover right before this, you can actually still keep moving. So if you're someone who practices this combination or this kind of like synergy, this is the way to go. But if you're someone who is still unsure, or like, again, everything goes wrong, you don't know what's happening, you press Emerald Communion and you're like, oh crap, I forgot to press hover right before this, you might be in a tough position, you might be screwed in certain situations. So again, really depends on how comfortable you are with this combination. Rush of Vitality is really good, but I think most people are gonna pick Dreamwalker just because they're not really used to that, again, hover Emerald Communion combination. Outside of that, we talked about this in the previous video, but I have to showcase this. Your Temporal Anomaly echoes are way weaker than your normal echoes, and that is, again, you can read this here because you're running Resonating Sphere, your effectiveness, your echoes are at 30% effectiveness, but because you are running Time Lord, 50% of 30 is going to be 45. So your echoes that are applied by Temporal Anomaly are going to be 45% effectiveness versus your normal echoes, which are 105% effectiveness. So there is a lot of disadvantages to casting your Temporal Anomaly, and there's a lot of advantages to casting Temporal Anomaly. There are a couple of things that ignore this aspect. If you cast your Temporal Anomaly echoes, and you take damage in the last 5 seconds, and I'm going to be using my reversion right here. Let's take a bit of damage. My absorptions have been taken away. I cast my reversion and you can see my golden hour is healed for 18,495 and it healed twice. Because golden hour talent, which is actually a pretty significant portion of your healing depending on how you're going to heal. Golden hour does not care about which echoes you've been using, Temporal Anomaly Echoes or the normal Echoes. So that is also an interesting aspect. On top of that, your Emerald Communion ramps are extremely strong because you can use Temporal Anomaly and then you can use Verdant Embrace, and the life bind that's been applied on these targets gets full value. It doesn't get diminished value from Temporal Anomaly Echoes, which means that you can apply a bunch of Echoes on people, use Verdant Embrace, apply life bind on everyone or as many people as possible in your raid, and then heal yourself with Emerald Communion, and that healing is going to be distributed to your targets with life bind at 40% effectiveness. So big ramps in raid, and we'll talk about how to apply your ramps at the start of the pull, how to apply ramps during the pull, and again, we talked about Golden Hour doing a lot of healing. Now, how do you heal as Preservation Evoker in raid situations? We talked about the fact that you are a cooldown based healer. You have 3 empowered abilities, and again, it's important to use your Fire Breath, especially if you have your Leaping Flames. We'll talk about Leaping Flames, but we also talk about the fact that you should be using as many empowered abilities as possible, because empowered spells increases reversion's chance to critically heal by 25% for 6 seconds. So you get rewarded by multiple ways for using your Fire Breath, and we'll see how to optimize that. Your bread and butter ability, honestly, one of the best spells, most efficient spells, insanely strong spells that you want to use as much as possible is going to be Dream Breath. Dream Breath will probably be one of your top heals, depending on how you play. A lot of the times in raid situations, I'll see Dream Breath as a top heal, maybe Reversion coming in there as well, depending on how you use your Reversion. But this is something that you have to use as much as possible, basically. You'll be trying to combine Verdant Embrace with Dream Breath as much as possible, because Call of Ysera is going to increase the healing of your Dream Breath by 40%. Really strong. Verdant Embrace, Dream Breath. Usually rank 1 or 2 is more than enough, because it's going to apply a hot that's going to last a decently long time. And even if people are not taking damage at the moment you cast your Dream Breath, if they will be taking damage in the next couple of seconds, your Dream Breath is going to provide additional, some healing. So you don't want to hold on to this ability for too long. You don't want to have this ability off cooldown for too long, because it's so efficient and so strong and so nice. Outside of that, you have Spirit Bloom, which is, again, your Dream Breath is a telegraphed ability. Spirit Bloom is a mouse over ability, so you need to mouse over someone in the party, and you want to cast the max rank of this because it's going to heal more people. You want to cast this when people need healing, multiple people need healing in your party or in your group. It is extremely strong in situations like Broodkeeper, where you're split. You might be doing the ads, you might be doing the boss, and again, it'll be far less people that you need to heal, and those people might need burst healing, and Spirit Bloom might be the best way to deal with it. So Spirit Bloom, again, something that will work with your 2-set bonus. Dream Breath, absolute bread and butter ability to be using this on cooldown or as much as possible, with Verdant Embrace when possible, and then Fire Breath to provide damage and to work with your Leaping Flames. Outside of that, you have Living Flame. Living Flame is an ability you can use to heal people or to DPS. You probably won't use this ability all that much in order to heal people, because a lot of your other heals might be enough to bring the party to top HP and things like that. You can use Living Flame to heal people, especially with your 4-set bonus and things like that, especially with Leaping Flames and things like that. So there are ways to optimize Living Flame. You also kind of forget about Temporal Anomaly now. Temporal Anomaly in 10.05 has been redesigned, and now the Absorb, honestly, on certain raid difficulties like normals and heroics and things like that, if you're overhealing content, the Absorb aspect of Temporal Anomaly might be insanely powerful. And again, the cooldown has been increased, and the kind of gameplay, at least with this build, with the Echo build, with the Reversion build, with the 2-set bonus and everything, you're going to be casting Temporal Anomaly, you're going to be applying Echoes on a couple of people, and then you're going to be using Reversion. Now, I will talk about when to use Reversion, when to use things like Verdant Embrace, how to set up for Emerald Communion ramps and things like that, but general consensus is you're getting Echoes out and you're pressing Reversion, especially if there's been damage happening in the last 5 seconds for Golden Hour, because you're also getting some value or decent value out of Grace Period. You have Dreamflight. Now, so many people don't optimize Dreamflight. It is an insanely powerful ability, especially if people are stacked. And if you can, again, Dreamflight is going to do burst healing over the people that it goes over it, and it's also going to apply a relatively long hot on people. So you should use this as often as possible on stacked groups. If you can, fights like Terras, fights like Kurog, you can get really good value. Certain fights, you'll get literally no value to this spell because people are spread all over the place and you just can't use it properly. Broodkeeper can be really awkward to use as well. So Dreamflight can either be absolutely insane or somewhat iffy depending on situation. You have Tip the Scales, which are going to make your empowered ability instant cast. A lot of the times people will use this on Spirit Bloom to put this in maybe Stasis, because you want to always cast Spirit Bloom max rank. You don't really always want to cast Dream Breath max rank, and you don't really focus on it as much. But Tip the Scale is pretty nice again. And then you have Rewind. Rewind works in the exact same way that something like Golden Hour works. People need to be taking damage in the last 5 seconds. You need to make sure to use Rewind. Again, most of the times you'll get 2 uses of Rewind in a raid situation depending on how long the boss fight. Again, if the boss is only going to last 3 minutes, if you're blasting through a boss, you probably will only get 1 use of this. But if you can get 2 uses of Rewind, the better, because this is arguably one of the strongest HPS cooldowns. Again, it scales on the damage that people are taking. So if you're doing normal content, if you're doing heroic content, Rewind might not be all that great. If you're doing mythic content and someone took a everyone in the party took a massive hit, Rewind is going to be absolutely insane. Only use this after the damage happened. Do not use it before damage happened, it'll do nothing. And then Emerald Communion ramp is absolutely bread and butter in order to providing max HPS. Again, we kind of talked about this. You want to get as many echoes out there as possible. Use Verdant Embrace and then use Emerald Communion. Emerald Communion is healing you, and then portion of that healing is going to be spread to people with Lifebite. So how do I prepare for my Stasis, for my Preservation Evoker ramps? You'll hear the word ramps being used quite a lot because Preservation Evoker is somewhat similar to Discipline Priest. Discipline Priest prepares for ramps using atonements. Preservation Evoker does this with echoes. Because you are running this build, because you have the tier set bonus, it's all about echo or the bronze build for Preservation Evoker in raids, and you'll be using your essences to apply echoes on people. Now, you will have multiple ways of proccing those echoes. A lot of the times you'll be using it on reversions, but you can use it on Verdant Embrace to provide instant healing or burst healing if you only have, how do I say, periods of boss fight where you only need burst healing. And if you apply your reversions, a lot of times the reversions might go into overhealing. You have to decide, do I reversion, do I Verdant Embrace? We'll talk about this. I don't want to spend all this time. I want to talk about Stasis and preparing Stasis before the boss ball. And this is what I do. Before the raid leader even says anything, I activate my Stasis and I activate my Temporal Anomaly. I have 1 Temporal Anomaly in my Stasis before the raid leader says anything, because I know the raid leader is going to do a 15-second pull timer, and I can put 3 Temporal Anomalies in my Stasis for some insane absorption and echo applications. So the raid leader says, hey, we're going to pull in 15 seconds. They do a pull timer. I activate my Temporal Anomaly. My Temporal Anomaly is applying echoes on people. You can see here that my echoes are already here. Now, the boss is going to be pulled in 6, 5, 4. I'm waiting for my Temporal Anomaly cooldown to come off cooldown, so I can use Temporal Anomaly again and place it into my Stasis. The boss is pulled, I'm DPSing. I activate my Temporal Anomaly again. Now, in this case, I might use something like Reversion to put my echoes that I already placed into Reversion, because if there's damage going to happen straight away or in the next couple of seconds, you can see here, I'm going to activate my Stasis. It's going to shoot out 3 Temporal Anomalies. A lot of people get echoes in the raid. They're all getting absorbs. I use my Verdant Embrace, and then I use my Emerald Communion to provide insane healing, because the healing on myself is going to distribute it on people with Lifebind, or at least a portion of that. So this is something that I do a lot of the times. Now, it really depends on how quickly the damage happens at the start of the boss. This can be used for bosses like Teros, Senart, and things like that, because there's going to be damage quite early in the fight. Name of the game, apply as many echoes as possible, and then decide, do I go straight into Verdant Embrace, Emerald Communion? Or if the damage is going to happen a little bit later and your echoes are already running out, you can use something like Reversion, wait for the damage to happen, activate Stasis, triple Temporal Anomalies, Verdant Embrace into Emerald Communion. That's the kind of opening that you want to do as a Preservation Evoker, and you can do a bunch of healing in this way. Now, how would I prepare my Stasis when I'm in mid-pull, when I'm trying to get as many echoes as possible, when I'm trying to get a ramp again? Maybe using Emerald Communion, because I need to get as many echoes as possible. So my general consensus for how I use my Stasis is, again, you cannot really cast triple Temporal Anomalies in Stasis, because that's going to provide you with 30 seconds of downtime where you cannot cast any healing abilities, or you can cast healing abilities, but you only want to cast the good healing abilities, because you have to remember Stasis stores 3 healing abilities. It also remembers ranks of empowered spells. So you cannot really do 3 temporal anomalies anymore, but you can't do 2 because that's only a 15-second downtime. You have to remember that temporal anomalies cooldown is 15 seconds. It is affected by haste, so the more haste you have, the lower cooldown temporal anomaly is going to be. So my consensus on what I like to do Verdant Embrace, Stasis, Dream Breath, rank 1 or 2 depending, then use temporal anomaly, and then use temporal anomaly again. 15-second downtime throughout the whole period of this. Now, why do I use Verdant Embrace initially? Because I like to use every single Dream Breath that I use, I like to empower it with Verdant Embrace. So even when I'm activating Stasis, or when I'm prepping for Stasis, I like to have an empowered Dream Breath. Keep in mind, because Verdant Embrace is not going to be placed in Stasis because you used Verdant Embrace and then Stasis, the Stasis Dream Breath is not going to be empowered by Call of Ysera when you pop Stasis. So that's something to remember. It's not as good as it sounds. So what this combination might look like. Let's go here. Just assume it's like 20-man raiding team or something along those lines. Again, there's no good way of showcasing this, but I'm going to use Verdant Embrace, I'm going to use Stasis, I'm going to use my Dream Breath, rank 1 or 2, I'm going to use Temporal Anomaly, and now I have 15 seconds, or depending on how much haste you have, of downtime. I'm just DPSing, trying to proc my Living Flames. Living Flames might proc Essence Burst and things like that. So you can see here, it proc. My Temporal Anomaly is coming off cooldown. I'm going to activate it again. Now I have a chance of either using Verdant Embrace and using Emerald Communion, or maybe something like Reversions. It really depends how you want to use the excess echoes that you have. Now, if damage is happening in the next couple of seconds, I have really big stasis available. And you might ask yourself, hey, you have Dream Breath. Is that going to proc your echoes? And then your echoes are going to be Dream Breath instead of something like, you know, Verdant Embrace into Emerald Communion. The ordering is really important. You can see here, Dream Breath and then 2 Temporal Anomalies were shot out, and I can decide how I want to use those echoes. In this case, I'm going to use Verdant Embrace, Live Bind applied on everyone, and then Emerald Communion. So this is how you can prep for your ramps, and then you have to decide how you want to use your ramps. And that's how I like to use my Stasis. I like to use it into Dream Breath, into Temporal Anomaly, into Temporal Anomaly again. Now, if you don't have Temporal Anomaly available, if you really messed it up completely, you can go the basic route that you do probably in Mythic Plus, which is Stasis, Verdant Embrace, Dream Breath, and max rank Spirit Bloom. You can do that as well, but honestly, I just like to store Temporal Anomalies and Stasis a lot more because of the Absorb and the Echo possibilities. So how would I prepare for Emerald Communion ramp halfway through the boss fight when maybe I don't have Stasis? Maybe I'm trying to get, again, what is the name of the game when you cast or before you cast Emerald Communion? How many echoes do you have in your raid, and do you have Verdant Embrace available? Because you need to make sure it's off cooldown. So I will cast 2 Temporal Anomalies to apply echoes, and I will have downtime between those 2 Temporal Anomalies where I will be fishing for Essence Burst, and I'll be using my excess essences to apply echoes. So now, it's important to know that the downtime between the Temporal Anomalies is dependent on your haste, because right now haste reduces the cooldown of Temporal Anomaly, so it's 14 seconds for me. So in general, I'll cast Temporal Anomaly, then I'll use my essences to apply echoes on other members in the raid group, and then if I don't have any essences, I'll cast max rank Fire Breath, which means will give me a lot of stacks of Leaping Flames, and then I'll cast Living Flame on the enemy target, and the excess Living Flames are going to bounce to my allies, but they won't proc the echoes. But the more Living Flames I'm casting, the higher chance of proccing Essence Burst, which gives me free echoes. So just to showcase how it might look like in real life situations, just assume this is a 20-man raid and we're trying to apply as many echoes as possible before using our Emerald Communion. So before using Emerald Communion, as many echoes as you can, and make sure your Verdant Embrace is available. Keep in mind, we might not have Stasis available and things like that, but we start off by casting Temporal Anomaly, which is going to apply echoes. Keep in mind, casting a bronze ability is going to give you temporal compression. We're running Spark of Insight, which means that at 4 temporal compressions, your next empowered ability is going to give you a guaranteed Essence Burst, and Essence Burst gives you a free echo in this case. So we cast Temporal Anomaly, everyone has echoes. We're casting echoes here to get 4 stacks of temporal compression. So we have to wait a little bit for our essence regen to come back to cast our next essence or cast our next echo. Now we have 4 temporal compressions and we cast a max rank Fire Breath. Now because it is a max rank Fire Breath, again, first of all, it's going to give you a guaranteed Essence Burst because of temporal compression and Spark of Insight, and we're running that. And then because we are running Leaping Flames, you can see here our Leaping Flame stacks here, and we're going to cast Living Flame onto the enemy target. There's going to be couple of Living Flames that are going to bounce to ally targets. And before 10.05, this would mean our echoes are going to proc and it's going to be completely ruined. But because of the hotfix, you can see here our living flames are hitting allies and they're not proccing echoes. And we got another proc of Essence Burst. So now we have a lot of echoes that we can use. We're using our Essence Burst, free echoes. We're using another echo, and then our Temporal Anomaly is available. We use Temporal Anomaly, and you can't really see it here, but our other echoes have 2 seconds available, and we're casting Verdant Embrace into Emerald Communion. And again, there's multiple ways of optimizing this, and this is very, how do I say? I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. It's just something that I try to achieve because you're casting Temporal Anomaly, you have a lot of downtime. It's going to be different for everyone because Temporal Anomaly's downtime is going to depend on how much haste you have, but I do like the Temporal Compression play here. I like the fact that you can squeeze in as many echoes as you can between those Temporal Anomalies, so you're trying to apply as many echoes to the raid group before you're pressing that Verdant Embrace and then pressing Emerald Communion for a really big burst healing. Now, what would your healing look like outside of these big cooldowns? So far in the video, we talked about Emerald Communion. We talked about preparing for ramps, maximizing ramps, casting multiple Temporal Anomalies, having a decent amount of downtime, how to optimize your downtime. But what about the fact, what is your healing outside of those cooldowns? Most of the time, and I want to showcase Teros here, this is a 2-month VOD, so it's very out of date, but it still showcases the different playstyles available, because in Teros, especially if you're overhealing content, a lot of the times the bread and butter lifestyle or gameplay for Preservation Evoker is going to be applying echoes, and that might be using something like Temporal Anomaly and then using something like Reversion. Now, it works better if there's been damage in the last 5 seconds because you're going to proc additional healing from Golden Hour, but you also have an option, especially when you're overhealing content where you have these burst potentials and then there's nothing really happening afterwards, or you feel like your reversions might be doing a lot of overhealing because you're generally bringing too many healers in the raid. You can apply Temporal Anomalies or apply echoes with Temporal Anomaly, whichever way you want, and then use Verdant Embrace for burst healing. So this is an example right here. This is Teros, there's nothing really happening here. I'm applying my echoes. Again, keep in mind this is a 2-month VOD. Temporal Anomaly has been redesigned since then. And then there's going to be a little bit of damage here. And I could have waited a little bit because there's going to be damage happening afterwards. And then I can press Verdant Embrace. This is going to top people up, make sure that they're full HP, and then damage happens also. So again, I could have optimized this a lot better, but you can see that it's basically all about that burst healing. And then all the other healers are catching up. So you can consider this playstyle as well, depending on which bosses you're doing. Teros is an example of this, especially in overhealing content, but majority of the time, outside of your cooldowns, you're applying echoes, you're probably using Temporal Anomaly. If you can do it on cooldown, you can do it, but most of the time you might have mana issues, and then you're proccing reversions, hopefully with some Golden Hour healing, and then you're basically using your empowered abilities. Kurog is another example of a fight where there is consistent damage happening throughout the whole fight. So what I'm doing here, again, I'm trying to DPS as much as possible and things like that, but I'm applying echoes on people and then I'm using reversion as much as possible because people are always taking damage, so I'm getting some value out of Golden Hour. Reversion is consistently ticking on people. There's always something to do. So if you're looking at fights like Kurog, consistent AoE damage happening all the time, you're applying echoes as much as possible and you're using reversion. So you can see I have reversion on everyone in the party right now. Everyone in the group has reversion ticking on them. In fights like Teros, depending if you're overhealing or underhealing, you might use something like echoes into Verdant Embrace to top them up instantly, depending if there's going to be AoE damage happening in the next foreseeable future. So multiple ways of playing this. If you're unsure about this, honestly, the easiest way to play this is just echoes into reversion because of your tier set bonus and things like that. And then you're using your empowered abilities as much as possible because it works with your 2-set bonus. Let me know how you feel about this video. I know this video was really long. I just always tend to just ramble on, but there's a lot of ways to optimize your Evoker. Evoker is a pretty difficult healer to play if you really want to min-max your ramps, but I think it's extremely rewarding, and I think there's multiple ways to play Evoker, which is really cool, guys. Let me know if you enjoyed this content. If you liked the video, like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel and allows me to continue doing these videos. Let me know which healer I should cover next in terms of making a guide. I'll see you in my next video.